when you're canning and it doesn't seal, can you put it in the freezer
Yes, you can.
without any additional thing?
Yes. The only thing is you can go ahead and put canned food in the freezer directly in the can, but you need to make sure that you're conscious of the water level when you're freezing, because that it can actually like freeze and burst the jar. So there's actually like a water level marker on here somewhere that it says free for, right here it is, for freezing full here. So basically, when you're freezing, don't have anything anymore in the any more product in the jar than this. Also, just know that like these jars, like these smooth jars, I am not into the smooth jars, but it was all I could find because I like writing on my jars, and I like the little harvest things. I like pretty if I can get it. And this is not pretty. This is just like looks like a mayonnaise jar. All except it says ball. Also, your regular standard jars will also have other measurements. So if you need to measure anything, like you've got several different things that need to go in, ingredients that you're making soup, and onions, peppers, and you add this, that. You can actually use these for measurements. See, that's what I like about them too. Appreciate that question. All right, we're gonna some miscellaneous terms here, and I don't know whether I need to go over that, but one of the things is that you probably need to know. I'll just kind of go over it briefly. A water bath canner. That can be any kind of pot that holds food under the boiling water for at least with at least 1 inch water above the lids and room to add an inch or two more for good measure. Say, for instance, this is like you can cook spaghetti pasta pot. So what you do is that what I did, and I actually did some canning in it. So just small, quick, just put it in, put this in there just like regular, put your jars in, put your water, and if you'll notice, this lip right here, there's a lip in here, about right in there. This is not good for this size jar because that it will boil over, okay? So, but it's good for this. See, it gives you plenty of room there to go ahead and put the water over. It's recommended to have 1 inch of water over your water bath jars. And I like to have at least 1 inch over, and the reason why is, and actually I like to have a couple of inches over, and the reason why is because the water will evaporate. Even if you've got the lid on it, water will evaporate when it's boiling, and you just need to make sure that you're looking at it ever so often. I like to take a spoon or something. I had a spoon somewhere, but anyway, but like a spoon. Oh, thank you. And I like to mark. This one is not marked. I actually have one that's marked, but like mark 1 inch, 2 inch. So basically, you just put it in there, and then you know right off how much is in there that you've got. So you can just, it's a real easy way of doing that. Doesn't have to be complicated. Your kitchen, your rules. All right, water bath basket or rack. I've actually got a bigger canner like this, and it's actually a water bath canner. And this is enamel, by the way. You can use stainless steel, whatever it is that you have. But you've got to make sure that you hold the jars off of the bottom of the canner. See, this fits down in the bottom. Jars go in here. And you see it's got a little place for the water to flow. You've got to have the water to flow. And the jars cannot sit in the bottom of the canner without some kind of a rack. It will bust your jars, y'all. So that is a rack. People say that you can put it on the edge of whatever it is, the canner, and lift it up and this, that, and the other. Oh, my goodness, not me. I don't have enough upper body strength. That does not work well for me. So basically, you can go ahead and like put it here like this fits on the side of the pots. They actually make them for like if you have a stainless steel pot, just measure the bottom of whatever the pot that you have. If you got just a standard cooking pot, measure the pot and it'll say a rack. You can get them on Amazon, even though that's not my favorite, but you can measure across the bottom and just determine what size that you need and get a little rack that goes in it. Or you can be all cheap, which cheap works good too. You see what these are? These are just plain old lids, and you just take you some twist ties, and it just fits right in the bottom of this pot, see? So then you just hold it, you just put your jars or whatever in, and they fit just right straight on top of that with no problem. So don't be worried about it. You can also use a dish towel in the bottom. Just fold you up a dish towel, but the main thing is, doesn't matter, your cans, your jars cannot sit on the bottom of your canner, okay? Put your dish towel in there, that will actually work, see? So just mainly, just something just to keep it up off the bottom. Pressure canner rack. Now that's for water bath. This is what a pressure canning rack looks like. And if that you were to get a canner and it doesn't have a rack, you can buy these at like Ace Hardware or something like that, or order them. So they're not expensive at all, but it keeps the product off of the bottom of the canner also, okay? So they may look rough like that one did. It was bent, I just bent it back out, you know. Use what you have. All right. Stacking jars vertically. So if that you have a canner, say for instance this canner, and you want to stack some jars in here, you're going to have first, like I said, put this in here first. So you're going to put your jars in here. Then if your canner is tall enough, and this one is like for the small jelly jars or whatever that that you're going to can, you can go ahead and stack this on top, and then put. And it may not be that. This may be for my other canner, but this is one of the canners that I have. But just as an illustration, you understand what I'm talking about. So basically, you stack your jars all the way around through here. Put another one of these that you can buy at the store or whatever, because they don't usually. They'll say that they may not come with an extra, but you can see that you can stack something on top. Don't be afraid to stack them on top as long as the canner closes. All right. And we already talked about canning different size jars in the canner. Just move it around. Boiling the water for a water bath canner. Boiling should be a rolling boil, not necessarily a hard boil, but most electric stoves not going to generate enough heat to do a hard boil. If you've got a great big water bath canner, like the one that fits this basket here, it's going to be big, and the canner is going to hang off of the stove about that far, all the way around, okay? So just basically turn it on high and let that thing start boiling, and then that is just however you can. But basically, you want it just a rolling boil instead of a hard boil, because if you have a hard boil, then it evaporates all the water out of the canner. That's the reason why. But always have it doing a boil. So steam canners. Steam canners are available, and times are the same as water bath canners. Steam canners is something that I don't use like a steam canner. However, what is that, power pressure cooker or whatever those little things are? Instapot. I've been trying to think that all evening. But your Instapot actually has a steam function. So you can actually water bath, I say, on the steam function of an Instapot, and it will actually work. Now, it is your Instapot, unless it has a canner button, it is not a canner. Do not be canning in that, because the pressure is not right. It doesn't have the right pressure. It doesn't have the right heat. It will not stay at a long enough. Canner's got to stay at a certain amount of heat for a certain amount of time, certain amount of pressure to safely can the product, and it kills all the bacteria and everything like that. You try to pressure can in one of those Instapots, that kill zone is just not there. Now they have an Instapot basically but you can do the water bath, quote unquote, with a steam function. It actually works. Also, they make an Instapot, which is really neat, and I'll get into that a little bit later, that also cans. I'm totally in love with it. I just don't have one. But it's like $149 or so on Amazon. And if you're interested in small batch canning, in other words, I'm single, so here I am trying to cook, and it's a recipe for 8, you know. So here I am, and I have eaten enough vegetable soup that corn's running out my ears. So basically what you do is you take that rest of it that you don't want to eat anymore, you're tired of, or you just don't want it, jar it up and put it in, like if you had an electric canner, it would be wonderful, because it holds 4 jars. They have them that actually hold 5, but this one holds 4 pints, in which most of the time that's plenty enough room for anybody. You can can a little bit every day. But like I said, you can do the water bath or you can do the pressure canning, but I just rather just pay a little bit more and get one if you can afford it. If you can't, like I said, you can do other things. I've given you plenty of options here. It's not a must. The Presto makes one. The Instapot is called an Instapot Max. Max, M-A-X, like Max the guy. Not a Duo, not anything else, but Instapot Max. And you'll recognize the Instapot Max because it will have a turn dial on the front, which is unusual to add a regular Instapot. When you look at the picture on it, you enlarge it, and it'll also say canning. So that is a canner, and they are great. They're great. And it stays in the kill zone. So does the Presto. Presto is bigger. It takes 5 pints, and then it will also can 4 quarts. But this Instapot won't do but 4 pints.
Do I have to be careful of my glass top stove?
Yes, you do. And the neat thing is they actually make canners for glass top stoves.
Oh, do they?
And that is something that most people have a question on, because that most people these days, they don't hardly ever buy any other. Go look in the store and that's all they have. Glass top stoves, Presto makes a canner that has the type of bottom that will actually fit on a glass top stove. They just tell you to be sure with your glass top stove to make sure that it is, there's a wax where you won't scrape it or whatever, because it will scrape. So, but if it were me and I had a glass top stove, I don't know if I wouldn't just go ahead and get either a hot plate or one of the electric canners, what I'm talking about. But also the electric canner, there's another one, and it's called a Nesco, like the Nesco, like you see Nesco at Walmart and everything, but you can't get any of these canners. They do not carry them locally like anywhere here like Walmart. You'll have to send off to Amazon, or even the Nesco, they don't. If you see some of these things, they're overpriced on Amazon, like $400 or something. That's not a $400 canner, or $1,000. I saw a All-American the other day, and they had a price of $1,000. There will be somebody that will buy something like that, but you can get them in other places. So watch your prices on Amazon and eBay or whatever, or even when you're looking on Amazon Marketplace. Compare prices. But if it were me and I was going to buy a Nesco, I would go ahead on the Nesco website. If I was going to buy an Instapot, the Instapot prices on Amazon were actually reasonable, like at $149. They also make, like I said, Presto makes one, and it's also good too. So those are the 3 recommended ones, and this will be in the handout. Do you sterilize for pressure canning? Now, I'm not talking about water baths, pressure canning. Used to, they said sterilize everything. Sterilize this, sterilize that. You got to boil them for so many minutes. Well, they say that anymore that if you're pressure canning, today's standard is if you're using clean jars, and this is for pressure canning only, you don't have to sterilize. However, if you're pressure canning hot liquids, now think, hot liquids, hot product, go into hot jars, go in a hot canner, or hot jars go into a warm, make sure it's warm, not cold, warm canner. You know, in other words, hot, cold. Just make sure, and you don't have to have it like hot, but it needs to be not cool or cold, okay? Otherwise, you'll bust the jar. They'll bust the jar, and it will hurt your feelings. But the neat thing is that if you need to do that and you're wondering, how am I going to heat my jars up? There's a couple of ways to do that. One is using a dishwasher. You just put those jars in the dishwasher. They probably maybe need to be cleaned anyway. Let them wash, go through the cycle, pull them out. They're hot. The other way is that you use an oven. You put the jars, I lay mine down on the side, put that oven on 200 degrees, and what it does is it starts heating up the jars. If you're wanting to sterilize those jars, you can actually put those jars in there for 200 degrees and 15 or 20 minutes, and I can't remember which it is, but anyway, that's a way to sterilize the jars if you don't want to use the hot water. And it's, like I said, that people just don't sterilize for pressure canning, but they still sterilize if, some people sterilize for water baths, some people don't. I do. And the reason why, because it's not coming that level of hotness and that level of everything, the kill zone right there. So I figure I want to try to make it as sterile as possible. Also, partial loads. Whatever size your canner, do not waste an opportunity to put a can of food in there. What I do, and this sounds crazy, but it works really well, I found that pinto beans are marvelous canned. You don't have to cook them in the big pot and everything, stir them and watch them boil and put some more water in, and when they evaporate down. This is pinto beans, and they are wonderful. What I do is that I always have pinto beans or some kind of dried beans in a jar, and it just depends on what was good at the store. So I put them in a big jar, canister, and I dip out a half of a cup for a pint, a full cup for a quart. You put those in there. And yes, I wash my beans, but it's kind of a shortcut, and I'm just going to tell you. So what I do is when I put those in there, I put some water in there, shake my beans up, and it kind of like gets that dirty water and everything going on, and I just put my hand like this and let that water pour on out. And if it looks like it needs to be done again, I'll do it again, pour it out. Well, I've just got washed my beans. Of course, it doesn't take into consideration picking through your beans, but we're hoping that nothing is in there that I don't need to be chewing on that'll break my tooth. So once you do that and you have your beans in your jar, dried beans in there, and you washed them, you can actually wash them the regular way, by the way. That's just my shortcut way. You go ahead and put your water in all the way up to the 1 inch. And 1 inch, in case y'all need to know, easy. You don't have to have, you can do this right here. And it's a cute little thing. Oh, I love it. And it's supposed to be your debubbler. And actually, I've got 3 inches marked right here where I know how much to put in my canner. So I know what my water level is. Now, how this works, this little thing right here is like you do it like this, and each level, it will tell you how much is in there. But what I do most of the time, I don't do all that. This is inch. See that first ring around through there? That's an inch. This is about a half inch right in here. And this is about 1/4 inch. Most everything you're going to can, if it's pressure canning, it's going to be an inch. Just figure out it's going to be an inch, whatever it is. Just don't fill it any further than that. And then sometimes your jams and jellies are a 1/4 inch or a half inch, but most of the time your pressure canning is right there. But like I said, don't miss an opportunity to can. But don't do an empty canner either. If you haven't got any pinto beans or whatever, you just make sure that you can go ahead and you can sterile water. If the grid were to go down, you're going to need sterile water. You're going to need it maybe to wash wounds. We hope not. You can use sterile water, like just in case you have a baby that needs to have some kind of formula fix, that sterile water to go in there, because you're not for sure what the water is. Or if that you have like some kind of tornado comes or whatever in your water supply, or something has really happened to the water supply and you have to boil it, you know you've got sterile water. So it's always a good idea. But if you don't want to even do that, you don't want to, oh man, I don't want to waste a can. Just set an empty can down there, fill it up with water, and just put it in, and it will hold everything up, okay? Just make sure you don't do with a partial filled canner. Always make sure it's full. All right, wipe the rim. Wipe the rim. Use a paper towel moistened with vinegar to cut any grease on the lid and remove food product prior to lidding. And it's just right here. You got to wipe this. Even though you have taken the handy dandy funnel, and you think, oh, there's no food on there, I will guarantee you there is food right up in here. And there is also grease. If you've canned any kind of meat or anything, it's so greasy you can't do anything with it nearly. You think, what in the world? So you just take that little bit of vinegar, and it will cut that grease off of that lid. Make sure you wipe it good. And while you're doing it, feel it. In other words, the paper towel will hang on a little crack or a little crevice there that's not right. Also, if you don't have vinegar, do like what everybody used to do back in the day, and like what I used to do before I figured out that white Vin works for doing that right there. You take the end of a dish towel, clean dish towel, run it under some hot water, and then just run it along through here. It'll accomplish the same thing. But white Vin is like the deal right now. But if you're going to buy the vinegar, buy the 5% acidity, and just plain old white vinegar will work. And like I said, I just put a little bit in the canner where that it won't make it cloudy. Cooling down the canner. Oh my goodness, we have cooked our product. Everything is good. Don't I need to cool it down? No. You turn the eye off. That's all you do. It's the time is up. Turn the eye off on your stove. However that looks like to you, just turn it off and let it sit. The thing is about a canner, if you were to cool it off quick, you can do 2 or 3 things here. One is that you can warp the canner. You can warp it. You don't want to do that. Another thing is that your product will siphon out. And like I've got one in here somewhere that it's partially filled. I think this is what happened to that. See, it was up here, because I told you I go to this is the 1 inch on a wide mouth. So it's like you've got yucky stuff in the bottom of the canner. You'd rather not have the stuff that was supposed to be in the jar in the bottom of the canner, because basically that's about 4 spoonfuls of food that I'm missing that got in the bottom of my canner. People say back in the day, you better not eat anything that's like that. Go ahead and eat it quick. But I've not had any problem, nor have I read of any kind of problem that people have suffered by eating food that has siphoned. The only thing about siphoning, like I said, you get it too cool too quick, or don't let the heat go down like what it should, is that you can have food coming out here, because see, the siphoning is actually coming out here. It's forcing it out. So it's forcing it basically in between the lid and the jar rim. So you may have food particles, and then it won't seal. Now, the key is like when you're doing, let's see. Just let your canner cool naturally, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. This is just to letting you know just don't cool it down quick. And it's even better to even leave it overnight. If you're tired or whatever, it's not going to hurt a thing to leave that canner overnight and let it cool down like that. You can, but mostly what people do is go ahead and like, they undo the, when it starts going, when all that quits, because that's what canners do. It's pressure, remember. So when you hear all of that hissing and everything like that and it quits, wait a little bit, like maybe 15 or 20 minutes, because it still may have pressure up in there, and you don't want to release the pressure too quick, and you don't want to cool it down too quick. So what you do basically is just what I do is just like leave that lid on, just open it up. Where's my lid? Oh, so basically what I do is I go ahead and just open it up and just leave it just like that for a little bit, maybe 15, 20 minutes. And then I let it peek out for about 15 or 20 minutes. And then I'll take the lid off and let it sit 15 or 20 minutes. Y'all, just a gradual release and not cool it down too quick, because you don't want to like hurt your food product that you've worked so hard to prepare. So then after that, after a little bit, handy dandy jar lifters. You take these little babies right here, because it's going to be hot. You don't want to put your fingers down in it. And basically it works like this. Lift it straight up, straight over, straight on a towel. I always use a towel to set everything on. The reason why is because I'm trying to insulate where it doesn't get too cold too quick, that hot thing on my cold counter. Plus I don't want to burn my counter. Could happen, could not. Just not taking a chance. All right, now this is an interesting thing that a lot of people have asked about, is like, what in the world are you talking about, raw packing? So you can you buy chicken at the store or whatever that you want to buy, chicken breast, say for instance. You got some big old chicken breasts, because they're like, chickens are now like this big, so their breasts are like that big. So basically what you do is you wash that chicken breast, and you don't, of course, the good rule of thumb is not to put like chicken, poultry, or any kind of meat on a wooden, any kind of wooden cutting board. What you do is you put it on a plastic, because plastic doesn't absorb salmonella and all that. So what you do is you figure out kind of what kind of size pieces that you like. Say, I like to have some chicken breast, and this is about what I usually have. So you're going to go ahead and cut it to whatever size you like, or even if you like the small ones, the strips or whatever, cut that chicken breast up. And then just cram it in the jar just as tight as you can. Just put it in there. And like I said, this is not as good as a wide mouth of jar. Wide mouth, just take your fingers and put that raw meat down in there, whatever kind. And I'm not talking about hamburger. I'm talking about like roast, some kind of like pork. I found is very greasy, and I've not had a lot of luck with pork, but like roast, some kind of meat, the chicken, turkey breast or whatever, just put it down in there. And if you want some kind of like, if you want some kind of seasoning, just put your little seasoning in it. You may want to put a little broth or whatever in it and put it up, like put a little liquid in it, but I don't. I just go ahead and just put the raw chicken or whatever the product in there. And y'all, I like Montreal steak seasoning. Some kind of something like that, just because it's quick and they have chicken seasoning or whatever. But I sprinkle a little bit of that in there. Go ahead and wipe the rim, and put everything together. And I put that in the canner, and that's the end of that. Now meat. Now we hadn't talked about meat, but it is so easy. Let me tell you how easy it is. Oh me, I don't know how long to can it. Meat is standard across the board, all except fish. I'm not talking about fish. Fish is fish, y'all. But the rest of it is meat. Meat for a pint, remember the pints. The pint jars are 75 minutes. Quarts are 90 minutes on your meat, all across the board. I don't care if it's this little chicken right here that look like it's got noodles and you have to hunt for that chicken in there. It's still meat. So can it the same amount of time. I'm talking about the anytime you pressure can and you can pressure can meat. Go ahead and ask it again.
Okay. Are you talking about using, for meat, are you talking about using the canner, the water bath, or the pressure cooker?
I'm talking about, now it's not a pressure cooker, remember, because the pressure cookers are like the Instapot or like used to, they're small like this. And I know, but a lot of people don't know that. And I knew you knew, but I'm just clarifying it. But now the pressure canner right here is what I'm talking about. You can basically can whatever you want to according to like, and this is not USDA approved. I'm here again, I'm telling you what people in the United Kingdom, my grandmother and everybody like that used to do. You can water bath anything except if it's meat. If it's meat and you want to water bath the meat, 3 hours. 3 hours. And it gets it into the kill zone. So that, and just in case there were a grid down situation and you need to worry about what you're going to do, you can have that option.
You may have already answered this. I saw how with the beans you had a quarter cup for a pint or whatever. There's a measurement with water. With meat, there's no water. It's more time and temperature. Just cram it in there, close it up. You're not filling it up with water. Was that a dumb question?
No. What the reason why, if you'll think about it, a lot of things are good with water. One of the things that's good with water is dried beans. In other words, they've got to rehydrate some way. So that's the reason why that I put water with the pinto beans, because you see that, and I didn't tell you, this is one of the most important things. May not be to a heart patient, but I'm just saying, ham, bacon grease, any kind of something, a little bit of seasoning in there, and I put just a little bit of salt in there. So these are actually seasoned beans, just like you, and it tastes just exactly like if you would have cooked them all day on the stove. Now, the meat and everything, just like what I said, I had rather dry canned. These potatoes right here are dry canned. So what I did basically, and you really need to use a certain kind of potatoes, like the yellow Yukon Golds or the red are the best potatoes to use because they do not discolor like the regular. What are those other potatoes? Russet. Thank you. Russet are also dirtier. So if you do can russets, keep in mind, because the way that they are done, you'll notice these other ones are really, like when you get them at the store, the red ones are clean. They're cleaner looking. The russets, they just dig them and, they don't wash them, or I don't know what they do. But anyway, the russets are dirtier, and the dirt hangs in the eyes. So that means bacteria is in the eyes. So if you do russet potatoes, 2 things about the russets: make sure you get out, if you're gonna do them with the peeling on, make sure you cut out those eyes, okay, on those russets. And also on a russet potato, make sure you soak them. And the reason why you wash them and soak them, and the reason why is because they are really starchy. And they will look bad. It's really a cosmetic thing on the russets because that, the starch and everything just looks so terrible. They'll discolor, they'll look dark. Even if you can put citric acid if you're concerned with, the look of them. But hey, I'm going to be the one that's eating my potatoes. and nobody's gonna see them, and if you fry them, most of the time, you know, they fry up and may not be dark, they'll look, you know, like potatoes. But these are like the Yukon Golds, and you see in the bottom it actually has, what I did is I cut them up, put them in the can, that you see they still have the skin on them. So what I do is put them all, you know, pretty good size in the can, put them up to the rim in the can there, put a pat of butter, and then I like me a little of that I told you, that Montreal steak seasoning. I put it in my potatoes too. You can also, one of the things that, I don't know where that other, but there's like, shop on the Mexican side, y'all. The Mexican side has got like good things and they're cheaper. Like this right here, I got a whole bottle of this same thing, and it was like this on the Mexican side for the same price. So you can look for different kinds of seasoning. They've got like I don't know where my other seasoning went, but there's another seasoning somewhere that is just really good. Adobe or something is what they call it, I think, but it's really good. And yeah, see, I slaughtered it with my Southern, but you know what I'm talking about. So, when we talked about the dry canning, and like I said, it cooks in its own juices. That's what I like. You can even, from what I understand, I haven't done it, but I'm going to try it this next year, is to dry can green beans. They say to go ahead and you can dry can the green beans, and that all the juice and everything, it will actually cook it better than in the water. So I'm not for sure about that, but I'm going to try it. But basically, your carrots can be dry canned with a little bit pat of butter, and they are so good, y'all. So just basically anything fresh, any fresh vegetable or any kind of frozen vegetable most of the time can be dry canned. The paraffin seal, we've already talked about that, but it can be done with jams, jellies, or preserves, and it's usually done with melting the paraffin and pouring it on top of the preserve. Paraffin can be reused, but you're not supposed to pressure can. All it does is like put a seal on it, and it's supposed to seal instead of like using a seal and it like go down here. You know, we talked about the canning and the little button went down and all that stuff. Well, this way the button will still be up, but it was just keep a lid, and that's what we were talking about, keeping out bugs, you know, or other sorts of things. So you always want to put some kind of lid on your food product, because that just things can happen. Mm-hmm.
Since it's not gonna have to seal again, would that be a way to use your old lids? Or do you need
Yes,
to do?
yes, that would be a wonderful way to use your old lids. So basically, you're just keeping the product clean, you know, no bugs, no this, that, or the other, or no kind of something getting in it like bugs, because bugs can get in, and I'd say they would like preserves right in under that wax.
Well, let's just finish up with some questions on what we did so far, if anybody has any questions. And then we'll continue next Wednesday. Is that okay, Ken?
Yes, because I'm halfway through is where I am.
Perfect. Anybody have some questions so far? Lynn?
When you were talking about the chicken and you put it raw, when it comes out, do you still cook it, or is it?
You can go ahead and cook it, the chicken, you know, like go ahead. Basically, you're going to be warming it up. But you can go ahead and like put it in the oven and make the outside brown and crispy and pretty. Because when you get it out, once you raw pack it, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to look like a big old blob of white something or other, and you're going to go, I'm not for sure what that is. So that's the reason why you need to label your food, even though you think you remember, you may not. So, what was that? I can't remember what I canned.
What did you have in the quart jar there that's all colors?
Oh, this is the dehydrated. Look here. So we're going to get into the dehydrated, and like I said, if you can't do anything else, If you don't want to do anything else, you can do anything that you want to because there's so many opportunities and options as far as canning. But if you are pressed for time, don't want to, or your garden is producing more or it's producing less, in other words, your garden is not producing enough to can, then you can dehydrate all that, those little batches.
So what is in there that's dehydrated?
That is, and this is my secret stash right here, y'all. What I did is I went down to Walmart and got mixed vegetables because that I wanted to get some food. I wanted to get food quick. You know, here we are and things are getting, I thought that it looked like food was like going up out of sight. I didn't have a lot of time. I went by and got 2 big bags about like this of mixed vegetables, and they were maybe $5 a piece. So what I did is lay those on the dehydrator, push the vegetable part, you know, like it tells you where on the dial to go, like 135 is the temperature you usually do vegetables and fruits, and just basically let it dehydrate for about 10 hours or whatever, and I check it. If it's not crunchy, it gets dehydrated some more. Now your leather is like they talk about the fruit. The fruit is supposed to be more like leather. You know, it dehydrates into leather and may be bendy, but your vegetables like this are supposed to be crunchy. And this is how you can tell they're okay. Frozen mixed vegetables, believe it or not. And they were frozen, just dumped them out in the dehydrator and they dehydrate.
If you don't have a dehydrator and your oven goes down to like 200, can you rig the door open to kind of adjust that so that it comes more to 135?
I am so happy you asked that question because yes,
Good.
if you don't have 40 to whatever that it costs or $60 or whatever for a dehydrator and you think that you can't dehydrate things, yes, you can. You use just an oven, place everything on a cookie sheet, and then just basically, like what she said, prop that door open. You can do anything in an oven, you can do a dehydrator. Dehydrator is just a fancy way to probably get your money. It's just convenient is what it is. It's like the electric pressure canner. You don't have to have it, but it's nice to have if you can afford it. But the thing is you don't have to have a dehydrator. That works fine. So you can actually dehydrate herbs and things like that in the oven. And right now I have a lemon balm plant. I don't know if y'all know of lemon balm, but it makes a wonderful tea. And it's supposed to be soothing and relaxes and gets you out of your kinks and all that stuff, you know, where you've been to work maybe or you've done this and you're like this. Lemon balm's supposed to calm you down. I don't know whether that works or not, but it sure tastes good. So what I basically did was clip the lemon balm, just put the leaves and everything, just kind of like a little teepee, and even though it's 100 and whatever in the shade today, it will have dried out. But really you would like to have a little bit of, like air circulation to go through it. But still, and then I go out tomorrow and I'll move the lemon balm around to make sure that all of them are dried. But see, you don't have to have all that. You can actually like hang whatever it is up, like put a little string around it, hang it up on a nail in the house, as long as it's circulating, and kind of do it like this a little bit, and it dries.
In the paperwork, do you have a little cheat sheet of shelf life? Because like I found that thing of squash in the garage that we canned like years ago.
2015.
Scared me to death. But I guess we could still eat it.
It looks okay.
See, just like what she said. You can. I've got some pear preserves that I found back in the back, and I'm not going to let them go to waste. I looked at them, looked good, And I guarantee you, when I open them up, they will smell and taste good too. But 2015, vegetables and things, you will, just like what I said, nutritional value may decrease, but like what she said, and I've known people, one family, what they did is their grandma canned these special kind of preserves, and they broke out one every Christmas. So they've been doing that for like 30 years. Swear that's the truth.
The same thing goes for commercial cans from the store, because we just made chili with pinto beans from 2016,
Right.
and we're still alive.
Now, I would also like to talk to you again about one thing, one important thing. What did I tell you may or may not be right? Do at your own risk. I'm not standing up here and telling you to do anything or to eat any kind of vegetables that's 30 years old. I'm just telling you what I do, what I have read, and some things are USDA, some are not. So just take that in consideration when you're doing. But your kitchen, your rules. My kitchen, my rules. So I'm just sharing what I know, trying to help other people.